I'm going to be a
Oh,
little bit
thanks. Thanks, Dean.
under.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, got it. All right. Going to be a little underpowered right now. I've been fighting off a cold for the last week and a half, but I'm actually I see some familiar faces, which is nice. Um, so I'm a neighbor of Simon's. I'm across the street from Simon, and I'm an admirer of his paintings, drawings, prints. I majored in art history at Williams, and then I studied art at the studio school, which is down on 8th Street, which was taught by faculty, which was very much of the New York school, people who had studied with Hoffman and Pollock. So it's very different kind of worlds, ways of thinking about visual arts. In fact, at one point, I was actually working in the Philip Guston studio, where apparently he would smoke cigarettes and drink and think serious thoughts and do his paintings. So there was an aura there, an aura not unlike those of Simon's paintings. And one reason I enjoy taking Simon's class, and sometimes I'm more in it than other times, depending on what's going on with the kids at home, is because Simon, I think, belongs to that tradition that Guston belonged to, of a true modern who is infatuated with the old masters and is somehow trying to bridge that gap between our culture, our visual culture, our psychological culture, and the culture that created those monuments of art, of artistry. And I've always been very impressed by Simon's attention to the visual artifact and to what would be considered, I guess, a fairly traditional concept of art, which is that art is serious. It's the thoughts of an artist embodied in this, surface. This work of art could be a sculpture, something two-dimensional, but it's the artist's animating spirit as manifested through craft that creates this object that reverberates, hopefully, that has vibrations, and it's an intensive experience to try to engage. It's not like a 10-second thing where you're looking at screenshots, or you're going through a museum and just like looking at one thing, looking at another, looking at another. I mean, you really have to give it some seriousness because it demands that. And I think Simon, that's how Simon feels about art, and sort of an oasis. I really, really appreciate and respect his sort of almost Talmudic intensity of sort of visual hermeneutics. So yeah, so that's about all I have to say. But I do enjoy the class and hearing everybody's point of view. I
Is, is there something that you have seen in the last 4 months, let's say, that
Yeah, I haven't been able to see that much, but I would say two things that really struck me were the Rick Barton show, which were of the drawings. Did I have his first name right?
oh, Rick Barton. Rick
Rick Barton.
Barton.
Yeah, right, Rick
Yeah.
Barton.
Yes.
Those are extraordinary. I know
Yeah.
you were talking about them a couple of classes ago, and I know it was a while ago, but the Holbein show,
Yeah. Yeah.
very different approach to visuality, but both immensely compelling and serious works that really kind of blew me away. I mean, I expected to be blown away by Holbein. He's always been
Yeah.
a sort of hero of mine, but the Barden came as a total surprise.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
stunning work at so many levels.
Um, Thank you so much for um, your introduction. I think it gives everyone a take on you, and thanks for your very beautiful words addressed in my direction. I hope you're right, and I'm betting a lot that you're right. So anyway, so
About that, I'm right, Simon.
what?
I'm right about that. I can't predict elections, but I'm right about that.
Okay. So what I want to do today is I want to continue where I left off last week. And I have a question to ask you at the end of the program, of the end of this class tonight. I'm going to try my best to speed up, okay? Because I'm not sure how much I should speed up, but I'll go a little faster than last week. So at the end of this class, if I still have more to go, I would like to know if you want me to stay with this or go to your input. In my opinion, I would stay with this. But if you feel like you want to try something different and you want to go for your essays and your input, I'm fine with that. This is maybe more work for me, but the funny thing about this is really weird. All of the class last week was improvised. I had no notes in front of me, 0 notes. So if you watched the recording or if you were there, you couldn't see me, you just saw the images. All I had in front of me were the dates for the artists, but I had nothing else. It was just total improvisation. It's a fascinating subject, and I didn't realize how very much I'm interested in the subject until I did this. I was listening to myself and I thought, wow, this really is saying something about something I'm interested in. And I've thought about this for quite a while, but I didn't kind of put it together. So in getting this grouping together, I really learned about myself and about these artists. So I am enjoying this thoroughly. And whichever way you decide is fine with me. So we could do a class 3 of this, or we could go to your input. In any case, class 4 would definitely be your input. So we'll do that at the end. So for now, let's go, Dean, let's go to where we were last week. If you could put those images on, the 3 images. And I think we're starting today with Celia Paul, who is number 6. Okay, so what you have to do now is go to the right of your screen, and at the very top part, you'll see a horizontal line. If you click that line, if you click, am I saying this right? If you click that line, oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Do you see what I did? I just clicked that little horizontal line. And now you see the 3 images.
I don't,
Okay.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
So I don't know what this is, what's going on here. What I want is just those 3 images.
Of Celia Paul?
Celia Paul.
Oh.
That's it. That's it. That's
okay.
it. Okay. So I'm going to start here. And suppose I do 5, and then I'll call for some questions or some input. Okay. So here we go. So this is the artist Celia Paul. Celia Paul, born 1959, still alive, born 1959, is a very, very good artist, English, and very moody. Quite a number of self-portraits. These 3 are examples. Unfortunately, the one on the left is out of focus, and I couldn't find anything better. The one in the middle is quite large. I think it's about 7 feet high. The one on the right is quite small. She also is a very fine writer. And I read one of her books. It's a memoir, and it deals in part with Lucian Freud, just in part. And Lucian Freud was her lover, or to put it the opposite way, she was one of many lovers of Lucian Freud. And she is included in a painting of his, which is going to be auctioned in November at, I believe, Christie's. And I would try to see that painting. It's a painting of about 4 or 5 figures, and she's, I think, on the far left. So this is Celia Paul. So let's go to the next one. So this is Matisse, and Matisse's dates are 1869 to 1954. So the painting in the middle was the subject of an exhibit just recently at the Museum of Modern Art. And this is a stunning painting and deals with the theme of his studio, as does the one on the right, as does the one on the left. So in the one in the middle, he has painted out much of the detail that you might see. And the nature of that exhibit was that whoever thought of this was very clever, very audacious. They brought back in the same exhibit every painting that is in this painting. So when you saw the painting at the Museum of Modern Art, you saw every single painting that is in this painting in quite a large room, and that's it. That was the room. That was the exhibit. In the next room, they brought the painting on the left, which came from the Phillips collection. That painting is also a fantastic painting, and it's a little different than the one in the middle. Very moody painting, and I believe if you travel to Washington, that's a painting that they would have up in Washington. Okay, next one. So now this is Lucian Freud, and at the very far left in that painting is Celia Paul. Okay, so he has painted his lover in that painting. Now on the very far right is Lucian Freud as an older man painting. And that painting on the far right is just stunning. It's almost like Cervantes, painting of right out of Cervantes, like the Holy Fool, or it's just amazing painting. The one in what they all have in common here is they all have aspects of palettes, brushes, paint. So the one in the middle is a kind of conversation between the woman and the accoutrements of painting. In the one on the left, he has rearranged the hierarchy in painting from a male painting a woman
Right.
to a woman painting a male. Okay, it is as in many works of Freud, it is in your face, disruptive, and disorienting. Okay, and wonderful, if you ask me, just wonderful. So this is Celia Paul, and I think that she met Freud when she was maybe 18 years old, and he was maybe 50, I think, or 53, in the art school that she went to, the Slade Art School. And so I knew of her because I knew she appeared in some of his paintings, and I knew of her because I saw her in those paintings. But it's only been recently that I have known of her work, which is really quite impressive, and you should look that up. Next one. Okay, so this is a woman named Nijetka Crosby, and I think her first name is Njideka, and I think it's pronounced Jideka Crosby, born in 1983. So she is representative of a whole group of very dynamic Black artists working in the United States. These artists have brought a kind of wonderful and new energy to the figurative direction. And what she has done is particularly fascinating. So she both collages images, paints collages, and all kinds of variations of that form. I am guessing that the images on the left and right are self-portraits. I almost feel I'm positive of this, but I'm going to leave a little doubt there. But they're very fresh, very contemporary, and very involved images. So, and the next one. So this artist is a particular favorite of mine. This is Frida Kahlo. And these paintings, you have to understand, are very small. So these paintings are, I would say, 8 by 10 inches, 9 by 12 inches tops. And the paintings are, they are connected with a Mexican tradition of an itinerant painter traveling around Mexico, and the paintings were done by this itinerant painter, or many of them, as offerings to the church. And the paintings were done on tin or metal, and then they would be offered to the church. And I think they're called retablo, R-E-T-A-B-L-O, or maybe retablos, R-E-T-A-B-L-O-S. So here you have in the middle Frida Kahlo's family tree, and it shows that she descended from a European German and Jewish side to another side, which is Indian. And on the far right, a very small painting that is in the Museum of Modern Art, which is a very disturbing painting in which she is seen cutting her hair off. On the painting on the far left, she's showing you painting. She's painting a palette on a palette. This is the doctor that she's painting, the doctor who worked with her. And I believe that the painting is a palette, but it's also, it indicates part of her viscera, her heart, or her insides are being worked on. Her paintings are very very, very striking to me. And I was first became aware of her work, I think in about maybe 1979. And there was a very large show of her work at the Gray Art Gallery at NYU. And I think that show opened her work up to a larger audience. I saw that show 5 times. And one of the times I brought my daughter to see it, who was 9 years old. And so I started off with Frida Kahlo, and then at 9 I went on to, I started off with Diane Arbus, and then at 9 I went on to this. And it's a funny education. Okay, so that's 5. A question or thought about these 5 from anyone? Anyone? So I could just keep going then.
Simon, I was just going to comment on the size of the doctor. And I mean, how she's such a small figure compared to the guy that she's painting.
Yes,
Must
yes,
have significance.
yes. And actually, that's a very good point, because that adds to the quality of surrealism in her work. And I would also say, Lucy, the interesting thing about this is that when I saw her work in 1979, the major reputation was her husband, who was Diego Rivera. He was like the George Washington of Mexican art. And I think at one point, Diego Rivera says that in the long run, she's going to be more well-known than he is. And but so she starts later as a painter. And I think her work at its best is very, very powerful and extremely moving to me. She's been accused of being a narcissist. There probably isn't one bad photograph of her ever. And she would always be dressing up for the camera, but it was well beyond that. And to that comment about her being a narcissist, I would say that I've met a lot of narcissists in my life, and she is the real narcissist. She's the real deal. Any other questions or?
Well, actually, I have a comment. Is much okay, narcissist, but I think she's certainly a sensationalist.
Yes, yes. Oh, I must, now this is Renee.
Yes.
So I must say that I didn't bring this up, but at a certain age, maybe she was about 15 or 16 years old, or maybe even a little younger. She is in a terrible accident. And I believe this takes place on a bus. And there's a tremendous accident on the bus.
She was hit by the bus.
And her back is incredibly injured. So over the course of her life, she has many surgeries, even though when you see the photographs, she's extremely striking looking. But she has many surgeries, and in many of the photographs, you can see her painting on either casts that she's had, or corsets, or medical things that she has to wear.
I have a comment. I don't know if you're finished.
Sure, I am.
I had the pleasure of being in her studio in Mexico.
Yes,
And
the
it's
Blue Studio.
Blue Studio, yeah, and I don't know if anybody else has been there, but
I have.
one has the sense that she really was an artistic genius, I think. I mean, just the detail and the way she lived her life, and the
Yes,
term narcissist, I would challenge it, because I think any great painter could be accused of being a narcissist. They all paint themselves.
yeah, yeah,
Every great painter, look at Lucian Freud there, painting himself
Yeah.
naked and making him the center of everything. I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit sexist that people are challenging that she's a narcissist. I think she was really a very, very, I mean, I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying that the idea that she would be called narcissistic when she was so ahead of her time, so interesting.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Also,
Yeah, I thought I was making a joke,
oh,
like that she's the real narcissist. Others are wannabes. This is the real thing. Let me
Oh,
continue. Oh,
Go
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh,
Someone else?
Carol, yeah.
Yes.
She also had polio as a child.
Mhm.
I forgot that. I forgot
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So it was like a double hit, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I think,
I-
can I just say,
Yeah.
quickly? I just think if you people thought she was overdressing or trying to look beautiful, wouldn't you be compensating for all the physical damage she had to her body?
Yeah.
I think that's probably what she was doing, covering up.
She also painted a lot about her body. And the
Yeah,
paint-
she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and-
I also that her dressing up was part of her art. I think she,
Yes.
Yes.
dressed
Well,
way
well
she-
said. Well said. That's Rita. Rita, that's really
Yeah.
sharp. Let me continue, and if you want, we could come back to these, but let me just keep going. So the next one. So this is Kata Kovitz.
Yeah.
So it's Kata, Kaethe, Kovitz, Kollwitz, 1867 to 1945. So Kovitz lives through the Second World War. This is very, very, very interesting. He lives through the Second World War. She does many, many self-portraits, and her mediums are predominantly black and white. She rarely uses color at all. And that's very rare in the history of art, that the total production is maybe 97, 98% is black and white. That could be an interesting discussion, another discussion, but it's pretty clear that there are very few. So these three are done in different mediums. I think the one on the right is either an etching or pen and ink. The one in the middle is, I believe, a lithograph, and the one on the far left might be a lithograph or an etching. She is not as popular or as well known as she should be, this woman. And it's fascinating to think about why. If I was teaching a class and I said, how many of you students, let's say it was a class in drawing or painting, if I would say, let's say there are 20 students, and I would say, how many of you know the work of Kata Kovitz? More than half would not know the work.
Really?
And of the ones that would know it, I would say out of 20, maybe 3 or 4. And most of the other people, students that would have taken that, quotes, imaginary class, if they were women, would not know this artist.
Hmm.
So in other words, in the return of the importance of women and women artists and women in writing and in the arts and so forth, it hasn't gone to this person. And there are a number of reasons why, but one of the things that I think of, well, see, I also feel that this is like major league work, but I think one of the reasons is that her work is extremely serious, not frivolous in any way, and not with it, or not modish. And I think that most people can't take that in. It's too much for them.
Simon?
I lost the connection. I don't know what to do. I have to go back and just get this connection back. Just take a second. Oh boy.
Simon, might it not also be age?
How so? How so?
In terms of older people being more familiar with her work than young people?
Yes, I guess, but it still doesn't explain why she's not part of a resurrection of her reputation.
Oh, well, Simon,
Yeah,
unmuted. Okay. So, it's sort of interesting you should talk about her reputation because I've always thought of her as an extraordinary artist. But in many ways, you're right that she is actually very unmodish because she was actually coming out of a German tradition that was looking at Rembrandt and Rembrandt etchings. And Rembrandt right now is at a particularly low ebb. Like most people, when they go into the Met, they're not interested in Rembrandt. So there's a particular tonal style that it's not bright computer graphic style. It's not illustrational. It's very
yeah,
tonal. It's very
yeah,
serious.
yeah.
And she's also an older artist. A lot of her works are self-portraits. She's not
Yeah.
modish. She can't be linked to fashion. And the
Yes,
social
yeah.
movements and the milieu that she can be linked to, which is sort of like death right now, is that she was a committed communist.
Yes,
She was a
yes.
social radical. So I was actually sort of interested. I was looking at 8 books to try to find books on her. And actually, a significant number of the books on her are actually older books. So right now, unfortunately, her subject matter is not one that's very popular.
Simon, it's Lucy.
Simon's gone.
Oh,
Go ahead, Lucy. Go ahead.
I was wondering if anybody knows when these pictures were painted or were created.
One of them says,
Oh,
Yeah.
30s.
1930 something.
1932.
And then, but the others don't have a date. I'd be very curious to know, especially that one.
her work
Should I look
after,
here?
I think she lost her son in World War I, and her work reflects that deep,
Yeah,
deep misery
Wait a minute.
that
Do that again.
certainly does.
Does anyone remember a drawing she did which seemed to be a mother and child
Yes.
in a
did
very
several.
in war? I mean, and that has never been a very popular subject
It was very
in
beautiful.
the art world, except for the Madonna, of course, but
My knowledge of hers goes back to when I was in college, which was in the late 50s and early 60s. I was at Oberlin and I took a class on prints, the history of prints. And she was one of the artists that was studied. And it made a big dent on me then, and it still does.
Um, should I ask him? What's this? Oh. Hey, Dean.
Yes.
Oh, Dean, I can't seem to get those pictures back on my screen. The three, is there something that I should do?
We all have.
Let's see.
In other words, I could keep going, but I don't have the pictures in front of me.
Lost the Zoom screen. They just sees the image of people.
I see all of you people, but
Oh.
I don't see the images, the three images.
Can you,
What's your, do you have the view side by side gallery? Or gallery or some, what's your view?
Just the whole page is missing.
Oh, now I see it. Wait a minute. Can you make this bigger?
I see what to do. Right.
Hit that one, hit that one. Yeah.
Dean, what if he went
That one.
offline and then just came on again, fresh?
Now, wait a minute, Dean.
that might
Hey,
work.
Dean,
Yes.
oh, no, I see it now. I see it now.
But we don't see it together with all the people.
No, we were
No.
only seeing this.
Oh,
That was the whole thing. We're just seeing this.
something's wrong here then.
So I see the three images,
Mhm.
but I see them small. Is
Oh.
there some way, Dean, is there some way that I could make it bigger?
Simon, I think if you hover over the very top middle of your screen, you'll get view options. And you can play around with those.
Something's totally wrong here because the regular Zoom page is missing.
All right, it doesn't matter. I'll just go with the smaller images, okay? I don't want to cause any problems here. If those small images come on, the next grouping come on, I'm fine. It'll just be smaller for me. For the rest of you, it's probably your whole screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to keep going. She also, she goes to art school in Germany, and this is a school for women. It's not a mixed school. The idea of a woman becoming an artist is separated in a way from the general population. She writes very well. She keeps diaries, and she writes diaries, diary entries, and she keeps journals, and the diary entries and journals are together in one or two books, which show her thought process and the art. The art is together. So I would say that she probably has done well over 100 self-portraits. And also the other thing is she is involved with sculpture. So she's partially a graphic artist, drawing, and also involved in sculpture. Her work has another side to it, which is more political, and this side to it, which is more internal and personal and more moody. And it's this group that I relate to more, but that's just my take. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is Kerry James Marshall, Kerry James Marshall, born 1953. And he is a very energetic painter. very interested in the Black experience, very interested in themes that have to do with being Black in the United States, in America. And in this picture on the left, he shows his palette, his working materials and tools. And in the picture on the right, you see a woman painting with a palette. And in the middle, what has been described to me as being an extremely small painting, which I believe is him. And they're very interesting paintings. And he, like the artist Crosby that I mentioned before, is part of a real renaissance of Black art in the United States. Next one. Okay, so this is a very interesting artist, one of my favorite artists of this period of time. Oh, also the period of time is from 1900 to 2022. So this is Edwin Dickinson, and Dickinson's dates are 1891 to 1978. The picture on the painting on the left, the self-portrait on the left, is very small. I would say 10 inches high. The painting on the right is a very interesting painting that was done for the National Academy in New York. So when you became a member of the National Academy, you donated a self-portrait at that time. It's since changed, but at that time you donated a self-portrait. I had the good fortune of meeting Dickinson's daughter, whose name is Helen. And she said to me that when her father was doing this painting on the right, the painting was getting better and better. And she said at one point he looked at her and the other people in his family, he said, this painting is getting too good. It's too good to give to these people. And it's a funny statement. So in that painting, he has set up a group of mirrors in which he was able to see himself in profile.
Wow.
And with this architectural drawing of, I think, a cube in perspective. His work is very tonal, very moody and tonal. And so he's very interested in exploring multiplicity of grays in his painting. And his painting is a beautiful ideal, which in a sense Nick spoke about before, in that it is a combination of modern and traditional. And I felt instinctively drawn to his work because of that connection. And when I was studying at the school that I studied at, the Brooklyn Museum Art School, at one point I had the ability, or I had the possibility of studying with Edwin Dickinson, who was teaching at the Art Students League. And I decided to pass on it for one particular reason, which is that many of his students, the influence was so strong that many of his students, their work looked like his. He's also a fabulous draftsman. Drawings are incredible. So I would suggest looking him up, and there is a fantastic book of drawings that's out of print, but published by the New York Graphic Society. So I highly recommend that. Let's see the next one. Okay, so these three I thought to include because they are the studio and they represent the studio of Francis Bacon. And Francis Bacon, English artist, 1909 to 1992. Bacon was a kind of crazy artist, but super dedicated. And this indicates the way his studio looked. And it's,
Oh.
I don't know, to me, it's a fabulous looking place.
Oh, my God.
And in, Renee and I went on a trip to Vienna, and we went to see a particular exhibit in Vienna. I think it was, it had to do with Spanish art, but there was a separate exhibit on, which I wasn't aware of, which was called Francis Bacon and the Art of Painting. And it juxtaposed paintings of Francis Bacon with paintings in their collection. So for instance, there's a painting of Francis Bacon of the Pope screaming, and that was juxtaposed, I think, with a painting by Titian of the Pope. Okay. So out in the hallway, there was a video playing. And this video was on the theme of Francis Bacon's studio, and it was fantastic. So this is his studio in London, and that studio was moved to a museum in Dublin. So the video, I believe you could find it online. The video shows art historians and maybe archaeologists and a group of thoroughly anal people mapping this stuff, mapping it on and on and on, mapping it so they had where everything was.
Oh,
And there were endless discussions of where all these objects were. And then the whole thing, after spending months or maybe a year on this, the whole thing was sent to Dublin and recreated in Dublin. All this stuff, this garbage and detritus, was recreated in London. The video struck me as so incredibly funny, but no one else was laughing. It was just, I was just laughing my head off. But in any case, that's Francis Bacon.
It sort of reminds me a little bit of the Gillespie cocaine.
Yes, but not Gillespie, but Desiderio.
I think it reminds me of Mar-a-Lago after the FBI went through it.
Well said. Very well said.
Very
well said. Very well said. Let's
great.
Let's go on. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, so this is the artist Walter Murch. So Walter Murch, 1907 to 1967. 1907 to 1967. So if you look up Walter Murch, you're going to see another Walter Murch, which is a editor, film editor. That Walter Murch is the son of this man. He's a very interesting figurative artist. This is self-portrait in the middle, and the paintings to the left and right are images of machines, or in the case of the one on the left, a doll or a mannequin. The images seem to be exploding or coming apart. So in his paintings, he combines an abstract expressionist direction with the figure, with figurative art. I would recommend looking up his work. It's very, very interesting. And I think that he did things to modify the paper or the canvas to make it look aged or worn. Okay, so that's, one more, the next one. Okay, so this is Paula Rigo, and Paula Rigo, 1935 to 2022. 1935 to 2022. We discussed Paula Rigo last term, I believe, and so she does a number of self-portraits, and you can see in the middle her studio and a self-portrait, and then to the left and to the right. Very strong drawings, very strong articulation of form, and very willful and really, really incredibly dense and thick and rich. There is a video on her work, which was a film or video, which was directed by her son. I think his name is Willig, Willig. This is a very, very good video, film. And it's actually so good that in part, I wondered if it was a film or a documentary. In other words, it almost appears like a French New Wave film. It's that good. And she is Portuguese, married an Englishman, and lived much of her life in London. So that's 5. Any thoughts about these 5?
Dean, if you could flip to the Dickinson for 1 second, I just have a question for Simon as to
Sure.
what the picture on the left, what I'm trying to make sense of what's on the top of his head and what's underneath his beard. Can you walk to the side there? Can you make sense of that?
Yeah. So he had a fixation on the Civil War, and he dressed up at times in Civil War outfits, and I believe that that's what he's doing in this painting.
Mhm.
But the painting is so, for a small painting, this might be 8 by 10 inches or 9 by 12 inches. This is so incredibly intense.
Mhm.
I'm sorry I don't see it now full screen the way you are, but I'm going to just try to improvise. But I know it's very intense. And he was a very interesting man, from New England, and carried New England in him, but also carried a certain kind of avant-garde quality. So, John, you'd find this interesting that of all the different non-objective painters who are looking at contemporary art, Dickinson would be the most admired of the non-objective group.
What does that mean?
Isn't that interesting? In other words, if you said to like Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, and that whole direction, which artist do you most admire of contemporary American figurative art? It would be him. It would be him, because they saw in his work something, a kindred spirit to them. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, what would that be?
What?
What would be the kindred spirit? That that you think that uh, they felt toward him. Let's say an artist like Pollock or Rothko.
Well, I don't think you see it so much in these paintings, but if you looked at other paintings
I
of
see.
you see a way that it's painted so the paint seems to be exploding, and the paint is the paint for itself, as opposed to
Okay.
what you see here.
Mhm.
Um, that would be depend on your curiosity to look this up. And you know, when like Lucy, when you're looking up someone like Edwin Dickinson, just punch his name in, and then you'll see below, you'll see it will say all, or it will say images. If you hit images, you just see a lot of paintings of that artist.
Okay.
So,
Okay, next.
yeah,
Anyone?
Simon,
I have a question about one. Oh,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Carol.
oh,
Yes.
I was just going to say, going back to Kerry James Marshall, there was an odd thing I noticed, which is the painting of the woman painting, the one
Yes.
on the right.
Yes.
The painting she's doing is a paint by numbers.
Huh.
painting.
Huh.
If you
Yes.
go,
I saw that. Yes,
which I
that's
think
very
is,
interesting.
I don't know
Yeah.
if that's sexist. I mean that the woman would be painting paint by numbers, but it was just very odd.
Yeah, it is odd. But you know, another part that's interesting here is if you look at the Dickinson and you look at these paintings are so flat. Okay, they're painted with such a different idea of painting than
Yes.
the Dickinson is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so you have to think of those aspects are different.
Yes.
Anyone else?
I have
No.
the point to address Carol's point that there's a paint by number. I see the line drawing of the paint by number. It looks like she's painting her self-portrait in that paint by number. Because I see the back there, the dress, her hair. So
Yes.
that's kind of an interesting take.
Yeah, it's like a double.
Okay.
Yeah, you see the chair is repeated.
Right.
Yeah. Let's go on to the next.
I have a question,
Oh,
Simon.
go ahead.
About in the merch painting, if we can go to his.
Yes, could we go to that one? Yes,
That-
you just passed
The
it. Yeah,
center one,
yeah,
there's an old master painting. I can't put my finger on the name, but the way the angle of the face and so close in the frame.
huh.
This refers to another painting. I don't know how I'll figure
Could
out
you-
which one.
could
I'm
you-
hoping
could
you
you
know.
Could you find it? Do
It's
some
gonna be
research and
tricky.
see.
Yeah,
if-
gonna be
could you-
tricky, but do other people see this of the placement of the head in the frame like that and the peaking effect?
Nick, what do you think?
Well, I mean, if you took away that cloth, I mean, that was a
Yeah.
fairly typical sort of composition for, you might even say like Quattrocento Flemish painters. And then I think
or Antonella de
Antonella de Messina, yeah, exactly. And then I think the cloth covering half the face might be a reference to that famous painting of Titian of the Pope, where there's a cloth
Yes,
covering
yes, good point.
part of him.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is a very small painting. I would say that it's about 10 inches high, 12 inches high. Francis, another point about Walter Murch is that he worked doing illustrations for scientific magazines, so like Scientific American. And so he did paintings and drawings of machines and apparatus. So then, I don't know how this evolved, but then he his paintings became a little more risky, more avant-garde, but they were still of machines, light bulbs, the inside of things, and they were used by the magazine. And that's how I believe he supported himself. And he would paint at odd hours in the evenings or on the weekend or early in the morning. So he wasn't independently wealthy. He had to really work to support himself. But in some curious way, if you look at his work, you'll see that these illustrations permeated into fine art. And that's fascinating, I think. Another question? Another question?
I have one, Simon. I can see at least a somewhat common thread through pretty much everyone you've shown us tonight, with
Yes, yes.
except that I don't get Matisse as fitting in. So why are you showing us the Matisse, and how does that relate? I think of him as colors and form and pretty and almost collagey and not about the interior life of people, I guess I would say. So I'm curious, why Matisse?
So is this John?
Sorry, that was David Jones.
David. Yeah, David, I thought it was you or John. Your question is a good question. I think what connects these is the theme, the artist and the studio. I mean, this is clearly about the theme.
Okay.
I mean, it's like unmistakably the artist and the studio, but translated through his brain.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I guess it's right. I guess it's sort of, you have to project into his brain from what he's showing you about the studio, I guess, right? I mean, he's not, there's no auto.
Well, the one in the middle is, has become like almost an iconic work of a studio. So the Museum of Modern Art putting this exhibit on is a very audacious move. And that's clear. And the one on the left is actually a piece that I've admired for a long time. And it's really a model in a studio. And the one on the right, you can argue, is a still life in a studio. So it struck me that it separates slightly because of the way they're done, but I think to me it seems connected. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but that was just my
No,
thinking.
I can see it. Thanks. Yes, I think it certainly has that thematic alignment. I think it.
Yeah.
I think his style's different, and he's less overtly about the figure or the figure of the artist or the interior.
Yes, that's definite. Before we continue, I wanted to just ask a few of you who I haven't heard from, if you have a thought or a question. Like Alan, does something occur to
Hey,
you?
Simon?
Yes.
This is Dean. I have something I have to take care of. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Just to let
Okay.
you know.
Okay. Alan, do you have a question?
Well,
about
what struck me and actually I've been looking at this painting, well, it's actually a drawing quite a bit, is the Paul Arrigo of the woman
Yes.
in the crouch position.
Yes.
It's just so full of sound, noise, and I don't know, it just really got to me, and I wound up staring at it for quite a while.
So I hope I'm here. I hope I'm hearing this correctly. What you're saying is full of sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't have thought that, but I agree. I agree totally. I agree totally with what you said. It's very sharp. Hello?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts, Alan?
You think,
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
no, that's fine. No, not really.
Okay, okay. Was there someone who I haven't heard from? Oh, Lynn, what about yourself?
Oh, I just had my question about Dickinson. Nothing in particular, otherwise, Simon, just enjoying the wide array of artists you've chosen.
You mean why him?
No, I just had the one question about Dickinson and the dress, that's all.
Oh, yeah. Is Dean back now?
Yes, I'm back.
Oh,
Thanks.
great. Let's go on then. Let's go on. So we're doing now Harvey. Okay, so this is my brother, Harvey Dinnerstein, and these are 3 paintings of his. He has done quite a number of self-portraits. These are 3. The one in the middle is very, very small. I mean small, like 3 inches high.
Oh.
3 and maybe 4 inches, but I would say 3.5 inches high. So the one on the left, you see him painting in his studio, and the one on the right, you see him painting the model in his studio. His work is very serious, and the painting on the left may or may not be connected to a painting that Rembrandt did, where you see an easel in the Rembrandt painting, and back at a distance, you see Rembrandt looking at his painting. Okay, so I don't know if that's the case. And if I did know, if I was wanted to ask, unfortunately, I can't ask. I can't ask at this point. My brother passed away in June. He was 94 and very committed to his work and led a very committed life. So anyway, so let's go to the next one.
Well,
Oh,
that
go ahead.
picture on the left looks like the picture that he has there below his paintbrush looks like a windmill.
Looks like?
A windmill.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Makes
Yes,
you wonder what the significance of that is.
yes, it looks like a windmill, and the windmill would relate to Rembrandt, I would say. Yes, that's true. So the next one is Antonio Lopez Garcia, if you could, yeah. Okay, so in this case, this is a contemporary artist, Antonio Lopez Garcia, born 1936. I could talk about his work for the whole evening, but just quickly, very architectural. And I remember reading that when he was a young art student, he may have taken classes in architecture, and he won different awards for his work as an architect. The thing that characterizes all 3 of these, to me, is the light. A very special kind of light in his work. So if you saw them in person, the light seems to shimmer everywhere, almost to seem like it's iridescent or disintegrating the forms. So the forms in reproduction appear more hard edge than they are in person. The one in the middle I always connected with the painting I did of a door of a bathroom. Okay, and it's, I think, virtually the same size. And the shapes are very interesting in these works. The one on the left is a drawing, and it's a drawing done in graphite, and I believe graphite mixed with alcohol and pencil. So this would, the one on the left would be like a drawing painting. The one in the middle is a painting, and the one on the far right, I think, is a drawing, but it looks like a painting. There were many examples that I could have chosen of his work, but I ended up choosing these three because they seemed to relate to the theme and also to relate to each other. The three of them are connected with each other. His work, to me, also connects with Edwin Dickinson. I don't know if he even knew of Edwin Dickinson. Dickinson would have been much older. I have no idea if he knew him. I had the opportunity to meet this artist once in Spain. He did not speak English, and he came to a talk that I gave, and he's a very, very interesting man, and all of his work is very interesting. If I was to take out three contemporary artists that are my favorites, he would be clearly one of them. And the theme in his work is a theme that you will see a bunch of times in this presentation, and it's the same theme of modern and traditional, contemporary and older. The intermingling of that idea, which I see in Edwin Dickinson and in Walter Murch and in this artist. Let's go to the next.
Simon,
Yes, yes.
I have a kind of the same question, which is, there's no self-portrait, and is there a studio here? Because
The studio is in the left one, and I believe in the right one, and I threw in the middle one.
I love the middle one. I'm not questioning it.
The middle one seemed to me to be part of his studio, or like an entrance way from his studio to another area. But I took the liberty of doing that. So, it's not like one-to-one. Life has a little jumpiness to it.
Right.
Let's see the next one. And we'll come back to you. Let's see the next one. So this is Andrew Wyeth, and Andrew Wyeth, the dates are 1917 to 2009. 1917 to 2009. Now, since I've already stated this theme that keeps reappearing, this theme is obviously continuing in these three pictures. Same exact theme. Contemporary, modern, something about the space or the mood, and some older aspect. Very incredibly well composed. And to Kathy's question, the last question, and the one I can anticipate, is why the picture on the left? Okay, and this is interesting, actually. So what Andrew Wyeth did was he had a few friends or a few acquaintances in the area where he lived, and I guess they responded to him strongly, and he was given carte blanche to occupy their homes. So he literally had a few studios that were in each of their homes where he did all this work. So his studio was in a man's home. I think his name was Kerner. Another person's home. And the window was in one of their homes. The man on the far right is actually a self-portrait of Wyeth, and that painting is called The Revenant, and it's surprisingly small. It looks to me like a much bigger painting. I think it's about 16 inches high, 17 inches high. And this painting had an unusual way that it came to be, is that he was in one of these homes and he walked down a flight of stairs, and all of a sudden he saw himself in a distance in a mirror. And he, I guess he thought of it as a ghost-like existence, ghost-like, hallucinatory of a ghost. And the painting is called The Revenant, which I believe means a ghost or a visitation. Okay, so the next one, David? I'm sorry, Dean. So the next one is Alice Neal, and you see her painting in the middle. And I added to the left a painting of Faith Ringgold, who you saw the quilts earlier. So that converses with the quilts. And to the right, is a woman who worked for Alice Neal and her child. And Alice Neal convinced this woman to pose for her. And then once she started posing, she got her to hold the child and all that. So this is the artist in the studio, and it's a second artist, Faith Ringgold. And the picture in the middle is, if you pardon the expression, a real pisser. And she is something else. She is really something else. It's a very daring picture. And it makes me think that this is something I should try. I think I have to get a little older, but I think it's something I'd like to attempt. So
Maybe a little older.
fasten your seatbelts. Okay, so any comments on these?
Oh, which one is Alice Neal is the middle?
Is the one in the middle.
Okay. I was
She's the
brain-
painter. She's the painter, and I believe she was 80 when she did this.
Yeah.
Says Neil 80, but yeah.
Dean, if you could flip to Harvey for a minute, I just have one comment on Harvey's work.
Go ahead. So go back. Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, so particularly the paintings on the left and the right, I think, Simon, these sort of stand out to me compared to all the other artists, in that on the left and the right, you really see Harvey is he's like in action, he's like in motion. He looks like he's going to, kill something here.
Yes.
Or maybe it's the canvas. I don't know, but I think that the energy he's painted himself with is quite extraordinary. And even the self-portrait in the center, you see a real sort of brooding kind of energy there. Did you ever see him in action painting, and what did he paint with this sort of energy you see here?
Maybe very, very, very slightly, really slightly, but he was extremely serious. So when he painted and when he drew, it was as serious as possible. Yes, so I did see that. But this has a certain amount of movement, especially the one on the right, more movement than I remembered. But I think it's an interesting composition because the man is so still and he's so much in movement.
Right.
The one in the middle is atypical of his work. And then in other paintings, they're much more social, much more connected with movements and civil rights and things like that, or war, anti-war, and then they come back to something that is different, more private. Um, the one in the middle is very early, so it's like 20, 21, 22 years old in the army. And anyway,
Is that him in the center in the
yes,
army?
yes, yes, yeah. I particularly like that painting.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I particularly like that painting, and I remember when he was very sick. I was speaking about this painting with him, and I said something. I hope he could understand what I was saying. I said that I thought his abilities changed and became better and more with more facility. But there was something about this painting that got to me, this one in the middle. And maybe it speaks to you try your best as an artist to have your hand get stronger and stronger, but there might be something else that's maybe more important. The X factor, X. And that painting has X to me, that one. But it's all personal. So, you can't say it's written in stone. It's just personal. I'd like to go on. So could I continue with Dean? Could you continue?
I actually had a question.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
One on the left, the one of Harvey. It looks like that's Whistler's mother on the wall there.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
That is hard for me to see.
on the right, yeah.
yeah.
What I'm looking at is much smaller than
Yeah.
your image.
Does look-
My image, this is going to sound crazy, but my image is 2 inches high
Oh,
because I can't get back to the screen once it disappeared. And I don't want to take time away from, trying to actually figure this out. So my image is 2 inches high, and the area that you're talking about
It's like a quarter.
is a half an inch in height. But I don't think that's Whistler's mother. I think that that's a painting of my brother's. Okay, that's my hunch, which I feel quite strongly about. The one in the middle, I know, is a painting of my mother.
Oh,
Okay, that's a definite. And the sculpture is by Luca della Robbia, Italian Renaissance sculptor. And this was a cast that Harvey got or found, I believe, at Vassar College. So that's what that is. If you looked up Luca della Robbia, you would see the original of that. But that's a cast. I'd like to go on. So I want to make sure I do as much as I can. So let's do the next one. Okay, so this is Jacob Lawrence. This is 1917 to 2000. So Jacob Lawrence, Black American artist who you could say was very influential on the Black artists that you've seen already tonight. And he had quite a nice reputation in the United States and did a number of series of paintings. So for instance, one series is about migration, Blacks migrating from the South to the North. one was on Harriet Tubman, one was on John Brown, one was on Frederick Douglass. And in these images, usually they're kind of small, like 9 by 12, 11 by 14 inches, and they become almost like pictures that have to be seen together to create like a storybook or a narrative of a life or a theme. In these three, what I was trying to get at was the way he looked, and the way he looked painting, the way he looked in his studio. He was a very striking looking man. And so these are three images of himself, self-portrait, painting, or coming up the stairs into his studio. If I was a contemporary artist today, especially a Black artist, I would know his work. It would be very important because he was a real forerunner in terms of American art.
Yeah.
And so let's see the next one.
His panel at the Whitney on World War II is very impressive. There's a whole series on World War II in a room by itself at the Whitney.
Yes, yes. So let's see the next one. Dean. So this is Ewan Uglow, 1932 to 2000. So I believe he is maybe English of originally Welsh background. Unusual name, Ewan, E-U-A-N, E-U-A-N, Uglow, U-G-L-O-W. So you see a self-portrait in the middle, and you see his studio and a model or models in his studio. And he worked in a very particular way. He used a lot of measurement and shapes in his work. So if you look up his art and you look at other paintings, you'll see shards of shapes and forms that form each individual. And he left his measuring devices there on the painting. So you get a sense of process in his work. And even here, you could see this particular theme of modernism and figurative art coming together. So that's very interesting to me. The next one. So these three are drawings of Dawn Clements. I had the good fortune of meeting her and inviting her over and having dinner with her. Really liked her. These are very large pieces. You could see how large the middle one is, which you could see the table. You could see the table there. I think that this picture, this drawing, is maybe 20 feet wide.
Wow.
And the one on the left might be 15 feet. She worked on paper that was unstretched paper hung on the wall. I don't really know how they're sold because it would be hard to put these under glass, if you ask me. But they are different aspects of her studio. And
Could you
different
spell her
aspects.
name? I'm sorry.
Her name is
Yeah.
spelled Dawn, D-A-W-N, D-A-W-N, and second name Clements, C-L-E-M-E-N-T-S.
Thank you.
Dawn Clements. And when I met her and when she came over, she was, I believe, quite sick. She didn't like to talk about it. She didn't dwell on it, but she passed away very soon after. And it was very sad. She was very serious, very dedicated. And it seemed to me that the touch and the hand of her work is very fine in all three of these, very full of art, very involved. And it looks to me like the picture in the middle just kept going on and on. It probably could have been 40 feet wide, but she stopped at a certain point. And this is pen and ink and maybe brush. So let's see the next one.
I turned them off. Oh, yeah.
Dean? Okay. All right. So this is Jenny Saville. So Jenny, Jenny, Saville, Saville. So Jenny Saville, born 1970, English artist, still alive. Very adventurous, very full of life, spirited, and in a sense, the middle one is quite avant-garde and involved in the artist in the studio process, artistic process. Let me go one more, and then I'll ask you if you have questions. So, okay. So this is one of my favorites. This is Alberto Giacometti. So Alberto, Alberto, Giacometti, 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 Giacometti. So Giacometti, his dates are 1901 to 1966. So he's not an artist that I came to immediately or as a student or even a little bit after that. But over many years, his art has become more and more dazzling and more interesting to me. And I guess that speaks to also how you change. You change and you see things differently, and you're not the same person. He was a terrific draftsman, drew very well and believed in drawing. So he is also a Renaissance person. He drew, painted, and sculpted. And in all three, if you skipped the other two, he would have been a major artist. Paintings, major, sculpture, major, drawings, major. He also was very smart, a really deep thinker, so a lot of his work has to do with thought, thinking, uncertainty, doubt, a journey, trying to figure something out. The two on the left are self-portraits. The one on the far right is not a self-portrait, but it's a piece that was done of a man who posed for him. I think this man's name was Lotar, Lotar. But this piece to me is so strong that it feels to me like this is Giacometti. And this is a self-portrait of Giacometti. And this is just about one of the last things he did. It's, I think, terribly moving. In one of the classes, I recommended a book, and everyone read this book. I don't know if I can do that in this class, but if you want to look at it, it's a book by James Lord on his posing for a painting of Giacometti. So every time he posed, he took notes. And the book is very short. It's about 80 pages long, but it is a brilliant book on the creation of a work of art.
What's the name of it?
I don't remember the name. Oh, it's called maybe A Giacometti Portrait, but it's a book by James Lord on posing for a portrait. So now I can't see you, but I just want to ask, what is your feeling about my continuing with this group? I think one more time should do it. Or
Yes.
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 I would love to continue,
Yes.
but it's up to you.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree too.
Please do.
Is that okay? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is a little strange because I can't see you, but I must tell you, even though I can't see you for the past hour, I love doing this. This is so much fun. It's so exhilarating and terrific. I can only hope that you're enjoying it.
Yes, it's very, very.
I can't see any of you. I can't see any of you. I can only see these three pictures. The little picture of Giacometti on the far right is about 1.5 inches high. So
Yes.
I will see you next week, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
All right.
Great.
All right.
You.
All right.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, good night.
So
Bye.
thanks. Take it easy. I'll see you next week. Whew. Crazy. Really crazy. Gotta
Slowly
gotta
disappearing.
be able to improvise in life.